Military marriage, original name. Rebirth of 70 High Cold Soldier brother is a bit sweet. Wang Xiaoxiao is an expert in military engineering, who wakes up and travels through the 1970s. She transformed into Bai Fumei, who was spoiled by her family. What, is this handsome soldier in front of me a cheap husband designed by myself? Is this teasing or letting go? Chu Xingchen is a famous war god in the team, winning every battle. He never expected that one day he would be tricked by a foolish woman and forced to marry her. After marriage, life was as he had expected, with chickens flying and dogs jumping everywhere. Just as he was about to lose control, the woman suddenly changed previously. Everyone sympathized with Chu Xingchen and married a troublemaker. Later on, everyone envied the Chu stars. My wife is not only fair-skinned and beautiful, but also has a prominent family background. She is a genius engineer. A pillar of the country. Why don't they have such good luck? They're really angry. Chapter 1. Waking up and becoming a married woman. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wake up and eat. As soon as Wang Xiaoxiao opened her eyes, a deep and magnetic voice came from her ear. She instinctively turned her head and was momentarily stunned. How could there be such a beautiful man? His slender and straight figure, perfectly proportioned, and military uniform seemed tailor-made for him. It was almost mesmerizing. The sharp and angular contours, narrow and deep eyebrows and eyes, high and straight nose bridges, thin lips, and every detail is exquisitely crafted. It is obvious that the voice just now came from the beautiful man in front of me. Wang Xiaoxiao came to his senses and asked, "Who are you?" The beautiful man gave her a faint glance, his eyes filled with coldness and disgust. "Wang Xiaoxiao, have you had enough trouble?" After the man finished speaking, he ignored her and walked straight to the bed. He placed a lunchbox in his hand on the low table next to the bed, then picked up a hot water kettle on the ground and turned to leave. The speed of his steps was as fast as if a raptor was chasing after him. Wang Xiaoxiao was confused. Upon hearing the man's words, she knew herself, but she really couldn't remember when she had seen him. With her own memory and the man's appearance, if she had met once, she would definitely have remembered deeply. As I was pondering, my head suddenly burst into pain, followed by a memory that didn't belong to me, accompanied by intense pain, flooding into my mind. After the excruciating pain, she was shocked to discover a fact she didn't want to accept at all. She had traveled through a fictional time and space similar to the 1970s in China. The owner of the body he is in is also called Wang Xiaoxiao. And the previous beautiful man's name was Chu Xingchen, who was her husband. The key is that this husband was designed by the original owner. Alas, Wang Xiaoxiao let out a sigh. No wonder people dislike her so much. It was all her own fault. No, to be precise, it should be the original owner's fault. Unlike himself, the original owner was a Bai Fumei who was loved by countless people. The father of the original owner, Wang Xiaoxiao, was a division commander of a military district in Beijing. Mother Yang Xiangju is the director of the Beijing iron and steel plant. The original owner also had two older brothers, the eldest brother Wang Jianjun, who was married and also a soldier. He is currently the commander of a certain military district in Beijing. Second brother Wang Weijun is unmarried, engaged in politics, and currently serves as the county magistrate of a certain county in the northwest. Wang Xiaoxiao's parents are also alive, and both elderly people are revolutionaries of the older generation. Grandpa Wang currently holds the position of vice chairman of the military commission. Although Grandma Wang has retired, she still holds a high military rank. The original owner is 19 years old and has just graduated from high school. Currently, he is an unemployed wanderer. The Wang family does not have a preference for boys over girls. On the contrary, Wang Xiaoxiao, as the only girl in the Wang family, grew up in the hands of a large family and developed a temperament of wanting wind to wind and rain to rain. The story has to start from 2 months ago. When the original owner was delivering something to his father, he met Chu Xingchen, who had come to Beijing for a mission before. He was deeply attracted by his stunning appearance, so he designed to marry him. However, on the day of the wedding, Chu Xingchen received an immediate telegram to return to the team. He left the original owner behind and hurriedly returned to the team after half of the wedding, and the original owner followed him to the northwest. However, the conditions in the northwest were difficult, and the original owner couldn't bear it after only a few days. He cried and asked Chu Xingchen to return to Beijing with her. How could Chu Xingchen agree to the original owner's unreasonable request? So, under the instigation of those with intentions, the original owner began a series of demonic behaviors, almost causing the entire family courtyard to be restless. The reason why she appeared in the hospital was because yesterday morning, the original owner went to the team leader's office again and caused trouble, but accidentally knocked her head and passed out. Everyone quickly brought her to the hospital. Perhaps the original owner was too fragile, so she was sent west directly. And she just slept too tired and woke up inexplicably appearing in this body. Wang Xiaoxiao helped her forehead, which was still feeling dizzy and painful. What was all this about? She was a young and beautiful girl who had never talked to anyone before, so she became a married girl. Not to mention it, the key was still her design that was about to be completed. It was her lifelong effort, and she stopped thinking about it, which made her feel heartbroken. Suddenly, a burst of urination hit her body, interrupting her thoughts. Wang Xiaoxiao stopped pondering. Forget it, let's settle for it. Anyway, she's an orphan, it's the same in any era. Take a step, take a look. She got up from bed and went out to explore the restroom. After solving her physical problems, she saw a restroom next to the restroom, and Wang Xiaoxiao walked over. The bathroom is very simple, with an ultra-long cement sink with several old-fashioned faucets on top, and a glass mirror attached to the wall next to it. After washing her hands, she walked to the mirror and looked at the girl inside. She was dressed in blue and white striped medical attire, with her long hair curled into fluffy curls and a bandage wrapped around her head. A small face as big as a palm, curved willow eyebrows, a pair of large apricot eyes that are very agile, long eyelashes trembling slightly, fair and flawless skin exuding a faint red pink, and thin lips are as delicate as rose petals. She is actually a beautiful embryo, and her appearance differs greatly from her original appearance. Wang Xiaoxiao couldn't understand why such a beautiful girl with a prominent family background couldn't figure it out. She insisted on marrying someone who didn't like her. Although Chu Xingchen was good-looking, there were many beautiful skin bags in the world. Why fall in love with a single flower? I just thought for a few seconds before stopping. There's nothing more important than this, I really don't have the heart to think about it. As soon as he walked to the door of the ward, he saw two people standing in the room. Although both of them were facing away from him, Wang Xiaoxiao still recognized Chu Xingchen in military uniform at a glance. As for the other one, wearing a white coat, it was obvious that he was a doctor. Just as I was about to push the door in, I suddenly heard the conversation between the two of them. The doctor said, "Old Chu, your daughter-in-law is also too mischievous. If it really doesn't work, let's leave." Upon hearing this, Wang Xiaoxiao couldn't help but stop and listen attentively, holding her breath. She also wanted to know Chu Xingchen's thoughts. Then Chu Xingchen did not answer the topic, but said, "Could you please show her again later? That woman's body is delicate. Is your body delicate? I didn't notice that stirring up people can give birth to dragons and tigers." Wang Xiaoxiao couldn't help but feel a headache. The original owner's devilish behavior was probably well known throughout the military district. She pushed open the door and walked in, while the two of them with their backs turned back at the same time. Chu Xingchen still had that indifferent expression when he saw her. The doctor, on the other hand, had a slightly awkward expression on his face, and without hesitation, he could tell that he was afraid of hearing what he had just said. Wang Xiaoxiao nodded to the two of them as a greeting, then ignored them and walked straight to the bedside. Chen Sudong awkwardly cleared his throat and said, "Comrade Wang, I'm here to change your dressing and check your health." Wang Xiaoxiao nodded and sat by the bed. Chen Sudong removed the bandage tied to her head, picked up disinfectant and medicine from the tray, and treated her wound. After checking again, the final conclusion is that there is a slight concussion. Change the dressing on time and rest well in the later stage. There's no big problem, Comrade Wang can be discharged now, Chen Sudong said and left the ward. Immediately after, Chu Xingchen also left, and Wang Xiaoxiao did not ask him what he was going to do. He lay on his own bed to rest. Goo 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 goo, her stomach let out a roar, and Wang Xiaoxiao felt extremely hungry. She raised her hand and looked at the watch on her wrist. It was 10:40 in the morning, and she had been unconscious since yesterday morning until now. No wonder her stomach was shouting so loudly. The world is vast, and eating is the largest. Looking at the lunch box placed on the low table next to me, I decisively picked it up. Open it to see that it contains rice porridge, an egg, and a steamed bun with white flour. At this time, white rice, white flour, and eggs are all precious items, and at first glance, they are not breakfast in the military cafeteria. They should be specially bought. Wang Xiaoxiao ate it without hesitation. After drinking a bowl of congee, her stomach felt more comfortable and her hunger was not so strong, so she slowly ate eggs and steamed buns. The steamed buns were filled with brown sugar, sweet and delicious, very good, and the eggs were simple boiled eggs in white water. As soon as everything was resolved, Chu Xingchen reappeared in the ward. He pulled out a stool from under the bed and sat down not far away. "Wang Xiaoxiao, let's talk about it." Wang Xiaoxiao nodded and said, "Okay." Afterwards, both of them fell silent, and for a moment, they didn't know what to say. After a while, Chu Xingchen spoke up and said, "Wang Xiaoxiao, it's impossible for me to come back to Beijing with you, and the conditions here are indeed difficult and not suitable for you. What I mean is that you go back to Beijing." Wang Xiaoxiao heard this with a vague understanding. Should she stop following the army or divorce her? However, no matter what, she is currently unable to return to Beijing. She is not the original owner. After staying with the Wang family for a long time in Beijing, she will eventually show her true identity. It is better to stay in the northwest and return in a year or two. Even if the Wang family discovers something different, it can be said that she came to the northwest to change. She replied confidently, "I won't go back to Beijing, this place is quite suitable for me." After finishing speaking, he continued, "I'm sorry, I apologize for my previous behavior. Don't worry, I won't do that again in the future." Regardless of the reason, the previous actions of the original owner did have a significant impact on him. Although she was not the original owner, she now resides within the original subject and can only bear this burden. According to the original owner's memory, Chu Xingchen's identity in the team was not ordinary, as he was the leader of the newly established independent team. The soldiers of the independent regiment are top-notch elites selected from various units across the country. Due to his high position and weight, he had to be cautious in every step. However, when the original owner had planned something for him, someone with ulterior motives took advantage of it. Chu Xingchen was almost accused of having a problem with his work style. Fortunately, the leaders of the original owner's family and Chu Xingchen intervened and suppressed this matter. And the original owner's trickery as a demon in the team has also affected his military career. Chu Xingchen didn't believe her words at all. After being forced to marry her, he had originally held the mentality of living a good life with her, but such thoughts gradually disappeared after her repeated struggles. He replied lightly, "Whatever you want." Thinking of another training session in the afternoon, he got up and walked outside the ward. "Chu Xingchen, do you want a divorce?" Wang Xiaoxiao asked softly as he watched his departure. Chu Xingchen had just walked at the door when he heard this sentence. His footsteps paused for a moment, without replying or turning back. Wang Xiaoxiao thought to himself, perhaps he longed for divorce, but due to his status, he was not allowed to do so. Chapter 2. The Original Owner's Friend. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Not long after Chu Xingchen left, the door of the ward was pushed open again, and then a very fashionable dressed woman walked in from outside. Xiaoxiao, are you okay? Although the woman looked at her with a worried expression, there was a hint of excitement hidden in her eyes. Wang Xiaoxiao glanced at her, dressed in a light blue floral dress, with the most fashionable curly hair permed at the moment, and his lips painted with lipstick. Those who didn't know thought he was going shopping. I searched through the original owner's memory and soon found the result. The woman's name is Feng Hongxia, who is the only friend of the original owner here and also a military sister. Law. Everything about this woman flashed through her mind, and Wang Xiaoxiao sighed helplessly. The original owner was still too innocent to be protected by his family. Feng Hongxia's man, Li Guoyang, is also a regimental leader. When the independent team was first established, both he and Chu Xingchen had the opportunity to become team leaders, but in the end, Chu Xingchen was still better. Feng Hongxia's calculations are easy to understand. With his thoughts lingering, Wang Xiaoxiao said calmly, "Is there anything wrong with my sister? Law coming all this way?" "It's okay, just get out of here quickly." Feng Hongxia was stunned. How could Wang Xiaoxiao be so calm? Shouldn't she complain to herself like before? Then continue to make noise? But now she couldn't think too much, calm her mind, and look at Wang Xiaoxiao with a worried expression. "I just came back from my mother's house and heard that you were hospitalized. I was very worried about you, so I came to take a look." To be precise, as soon as she returned from her mother's house, she heard Wang Xiaoxiao start making a fuss again. This time, the commotion was more serious than before, and she was injured and hospitalized. She immediately ran over to see a joke and added fire to make this foolish woman even more violent, so that her wish could be fulfilled quickly. With this in mind, she continued, "Captain Chu is really amazing. How could he treat you like this?" Her voice deliberately increased a bit, and a large crowd of onlookers immediately attracted at the entrance of the ward. Wang Xiaoxiao stood there coldly watching her act. If the original owner had heard Feng Hongxia's words, he would have been deeply moved and scolded Chu Xingchen according to her wishes. But as an orphan since childhood, Wang Xiaoxiao has never seen anyone like him, and how could he not understand the purpose of this woman? "Oh, what did Chu Xingchen do to me?" Feng Hongxia couldn't help but look up and down at Wang Xiaoxiao when she saw that she didn't follow her words. She was very puzzled. What happened to this foolish woman today? She stopped making trouble. No, she needs to add more fire. "Xiaoxiao, why are you still sheltering Captain Chu? He has beaten you to the hospital." A group of inexplicable onlookers at the entrance heard Feng Hongxia's words and immediately began to discuss. "Oh my, I just feel sorry for this girl. She's sick and hospitalized without anyone to accompany her. It turns out she was beaten. Look at the injury on that head, it's quite serious at first glance. Alas, what era is it now? What? Great people don't even say that we women hold up half of the sky, how can we still beat people? That's right, he's still a regimental leader. A soldier has just the quality, tsk, he's not as good as my man." Feng Hongxia couldn't help but curl her lips as she listened to the conversation between the patients and their families at the door. She liked the effect, and if Wang Xiaoxiao were to make a fuss again, it would be even more perfect. After listening to the crowd of onlookers, Wang Xiaoxiao put aside his attitude towards watching the play and asked coldly, "Who told you that my injury was caused by Chu Xingchen?" Feng Hongxia was taken aback when she heard these words. It wasn't Chu Xingchen who hit it, could it be that she touched it herself? "Xiaoxiao, don't be afraid. Even if you're the team leader, you can't hit anyone. Don't worry, the team leaders will definitely take care of it." Feng Hongxia thought to herself, it would be best if this foolish woman could go to the team leader's place and make some more fuss. Wang Xiaoxiao had a gloomy face. Even though her relationship with Chu Xingchen was very poor now, she couldn't let Feng Hongxia slander him like this. Besides, this injury was originally caused by the original owner himself. She looked sharply at Feng Hongxia and said, "I will definitely report your behavior of falsely accusing soldiers to the leadership." Feng Hongxia was shocked by Wang Xiaoxiao's gaze, and as she listened to the content of her words, her head immediately buzzed. Isn't her injury really caused by Chu Xingchen? As soon as she returned to the army, she heard her sister.In-law discussing the incident where Wang Xiaoxiao had been hospitalized. As for how the injury came about, she really didn't ask clearly. If she really wronged Chu Xingchen in this matter and was found out by the team leader, there would probably be a lot of education and criticism. No, we need to figure out what's going on. With this in mind, she quickly said, "Xiaoxiao, look at what you're saying. Isn't my sister.In-law afraid that you'll suffer a loss? Since you're okay, my sister.In-law will go back first. There's still something to do at home." After speaking, she hurriedly ran out of the ward. Wang Xiaoxiao looked at Feng Hongxia's back and snorted coldly. With this method, he came to provoke her and Chu Xingchen's relationship. Only a fool like the original owner would believe it. Retrieving his gaze, he smiled sweetly at the onlookers at the door and said, "Uncle and aunt, you can't believe what my sister.In-law just said. I accidentally touched this injury myself, and my man treated me quite well. Speaking of which," she paused for a moment. "Isn't it just acting, who wouldn't?" Her face immediately changed to a worried and heartbroken expression, and she continued, "My sister.In-law is also a pitiful person. My sister.In-law is treated by her men. Let's not mention it." The series of demonic behaviors of the original owner in the team were not without Feng Hongxia's instigation, and her words were also true. Feng Hongxia's men were indeed not good to her at all. The reason why Feng Hongxia broke through the original owner is firstly for her man. If Chu Xingchen makes a mistake and steps down, the next leader of the independent regiment will be none other than Li Guoliang. Secondly, this woman is a bit abnormal because her own man is not good to her, so she cannot see other couples living well. Almost every family member who comes to join the army will provoke her. How could such a person truly be friends with the original owner? Watching her sincere expression and hesitant speech, the onlookers instantly understood that the sentiment was that the woman and man had treated her poorly just now, so they couldn't see that the mistress was good enough to falsely accuse and provoke her like this. This thought is really malicious. Wang Xiaoxiao looked at the expressions on everyone's faces and nodded in satisfaction. After seeing off the melon-eating crowd, she continued to lie in bed to rest and contemplate her life. Wang Xiaoxiao is an orphan who grew up in an orphanage. Fortunately, she worked hard enough and became an excellent military engineering expert at a young age. Alas, these have all become memories now. Let's think about the present. With her abilities, even if she lives alone in this time and space, life is not too difficult. The only thing that troubles her is her cheap husband. At present, the possibility of divorce between the two is not high. They divorced as soon as they got married, and Chu Xingchen's future is very likely to be ruined. The original owner has already cheated on him once, and she cannot cheat him again. Moreover, divorce will not be good for her reputation. Since we cannot divorce now, we can only find a way to repair our relationship with Chu Xingchen first. It would be great if the two could live like an ordinary couple, as she doesn't have much hope for love or marriage. If not, we can only wait for the opportunity to divorce slowly. But judging from Chu Xingchen's current attitude, this is difficult to argue with. Thinking about it, she fell asleep in a daze. Chapter 3. Discovering Space. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I slept until the afternoon. The sound of opening the door at the door startled her, and when she opened her eyes, she saw Chu Xingchen walking in with a lunchbox in his hand. Chu Xingchen placed the food on the table and said without lifting his head, "It's time to eat." Wang Xiaoxiao paused for a moment before saying, "Thank you." Chu Xingchen paused for a moment, never expecting to hear Wang Xiaoxiao say, "Thank you," one day. Although he dislikes the woman Wang Xiaoxiao very much, after all, she came all the way to the northwest for her own benefit. Therefore, during this period, he has been doing his best to take care of her, but he has never heard her say thank you. What's wrong with her today? Chu Xingchen couldn't help but frown. What kind of demon does this woman want to be? He felt a bit tired and didn't dare to stay in the room. After putting down his lunch box, he quickly left. Wang Xiaoxiao. After Chu Xingchen left, she sat at the table and opened her lunch box. In an instant, a fragrance of food filled the air. Fried pork with beans, cucumber salad, eggplant with minced meat, and a mantou. In this era where meat and noodles are extremely precious, these things are truly a feast. The little things she had eaten in the morning had already been digested. At this moment, when she saw these tempting dishes, Wang Xiaoxiao's appetite suddenly opened up. She picked up a piece of meat and put it into her mouth. The charred pork belly was fat but not greasy, and she gently took 2 bites, with a strong meat aroma between her lips and teeth. The local pork in this era is much more delicious than the pork raised with feed in later generations. The green beans were crispy and refreshing, and she was too satisfied to eat them. The taste of minced eggplant and cold cucumber is also very good. Wang Xiaoxiao ate with relish, but couldn't help but sigh in his heart that Chu Xingchen is such a man with good character. Although he hates the original owner very much and their marriage is in name only, he still does his best to take care of the original owner. Since Chu Xingchen returned, he has been delivering the original owner's 3 meals on time and occasionally giving him pocket money. Unfortunately, the original owner is a person who never knows how to be satisfied. After finishing the meal, Wang Xiaoxiao contentedly touched his round belly, and there was nothing more healing than food. Just as he was thinking about it, Chu Xingchen walked in again with 2 pieces of paper and some medicine in his hand. "The discharge procedures have been completed, please tidy up and go back." Wang Xiaoxiao thought to herself, it turned out that he had just gone to handle the discharge procedures. He had originally planned to slow down and handle it himself, but now it saved her some trouble. She nodded and replied with the word, "Good." The original owner was hastily hospitalized and did not stay in the hospital for a long time. There was nothing to pack, so he got up and got out of bed to find his previous clothes. Chu Xingchen saw that she was going to change clothes, turned around and left the hospital room, and kindly closed the door for her. After changing clothes and leaving the ward, he looked at Chu Xingchen standing at the door waiting and said, "All right." Chu Xingchen nodded silently and turned around to walk outside the hospital first. Wang Xiaoxiao followed behind him, neither far nor close. Along the way, I met many people who would stop and say hello when they saw Chu Xingchen. For her walking behind, many people choose to ignore her, and some even look at her with disdain before rushing by. Wang Xiaoxiao let out a silent sigh. At this time, most of the soldiers were born in rural areas, and the wives they married were mostly from rural areas. And the original owner was a city resident and a high school student, who thought he was superior and looked down upon these uneducated mud-legged people from the countryside. In his daily language, he even looked down upon and disdained these people, and had poor reviews in the team and family buildings. Not long after walking, Wang Xiaoxiao saw rows of bungalows. According to the original owner's memory, she knew that this was the military family courtyard. It is currently summer, and the hard-working military sisters are growing lush vegetables in the small vegetable garden enclosed by a fence on the open space outside the yard. There was nothing on the open space in front of the courtyard, and Wang Xiaoxiao knew that the courtyard was Chu Xingchen's house, where the original owner had been living. Chu Xingchen stopped at the door, took out the key, opened the door, and walked in. Wang Xiaoxiao curiously surveyed the surrounding environment and followed Chu Xingchen into the room. The house is quite large, with 3 bedrooms, a living room, a kitchen, a bathroom, and a bathroom together. The living room is very simple, with a table, a few small stools, and nothing else. Chu Xingchen placed the medicine on the table and said, "Take the medicine on time," and Dr. Chen has written down the usage and dosage on paper. He took out some money and tickets from his pocket and put them on the table. "You can take these and use them first." After Chu Xingchen finished his last sentence, he turned around and walked outside. Wang Xiaoxiao watched as he left, then picked up the money on the table and counted it. Surprisingly, there were over 30 yuan. As for the tickets, she didn't count them, so there should be quite a bit. After sitting in the living room for a while, she got up and searched for the memories of the original owner. She found the bedroom where the original owner had been before, and as soon as she pushed open the door, she was instantly stunned and froze in place. The room was so messy that words couldn't describe it. Clothes were scattered everywhere, making it difficult for people to get down. There was also a sour smell in the air, which made it difficult for people to breathe. The original owner has been pampered by his family all day, only knowing how to tidy up his own house and not knowing how to do household chores. He has never tidied up his house since coming to the northwest for so many days. Wang Xiaoxiao stood at the door for a long time before reluctantly tidying up. She tiptoed to the window first, opened it to let the room breathe, dug out 2 large basins from the bathroom, picked up the clothes scattered on the ground, table, and bedside, soaked them in the basin, and left them to wash for a while. Continuing to tidy up the room, fortunately there wasn't much furniture in the bedroom. A table, a double-door wardrobe, and a chair were quickly wiped out. It takes a lot of effort to tidy up the floor. The floor of the military family courtyard is all made of cement. Usually, family members only use brooms to sweep, and few people use mops or mops. Wang Xiaoxiao changed the water several times before mopping the floor. He also mopped several other rooms, except for one room, which was Chu Xingchen's bedroom. Chu Xingchen originally lived in the original owner's room. Since the original owner occupied Chu Xingchen's bedroom, Chu Xingchen moved to another house. Later, due to the original owner's affectation, he was too lazy to even return home. Wang Xiaoxiao couldn't help but sigh. Seeing Chu Xingchen like this, he knew how much he didn't like the original owner. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gotten married for several months without even touching the original owner. After tidying up the house, she was already exhausted. The original owner was already weak, and with injuries, it became even weaker. After changing the sheets and covers, he collapsed on the bed as if lying dead. The hard bed board beneath her made her miss her comfortable and soft big bed. If only she could lie on it. As soon as the thought flashed, the scene in front of me suddenly changed. In the familiar small apartment, Wang Xiaoxiao lay on the bed he had just talked about as he wished. This after a brief surprise, Wang Xiaoxiao had a vague guess in her heart. She focused her mind again and thought to herself, "I want to go out." The scene suddenly changed, and she lay on that creepy hard bed again. After repeated attempts, her guess was finally confirmed, and the apartment became her personal space. Chapter 4. Space Exploration. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wang Xiaoxiao really wanted to look up and laugh wildly at this moment. I really love giving away space when traveling. She ran up and down in the apartment to check again, and found that the 2 super large refrigerators were still filled with food, water, and electricity. The apartment was complete and we crossed over together. After exercising for so long, she felt a little thirsty. She took out a box of yogurt from the refrigerator, washed some strawberries and cherries, and nestled on the lazy sofa to eat leisurely. While eating, I was thinking about the 2 large pots of clothes still soaking in the bathroom. I used to worry about them, but now I don't need them anymore. Just throw them into the washing machine for washing. From the clothes of the original owner, it can be seen how much the family of the original owner dotes on this daughter. In this era of poverty and material scarcity, many people are unable to wear a new piece of clothing all year round, and the original owner, who has new clothes every season, only buys several pieces at a time. When tidying up the room this afternoon, I opened the wardrobe and found that it was full of brand new looking brag. Not to mention the 30 or 40 pieces of clothes she had left in the bathroom, but all these clothes were just a part of what the original owner had brought when they came to the Northwest. Most of them were still in Beijing. As an orphan, Wang Xiaoxiao is very envious of the original owner. After eating and drinking enough, Wang Xiaoxiao became full of energy again. Okay, mainly because she was too excited to sleep, so she decided to continue working. After leaving the space, I directly used my mind to move 2 large pots of clothes into the space, sorted them and threw them into the washing machine, allowing them to be washed slowly. While washing clothes, she picked up the medicine and sat in front of the mirror, carefully changing it. Although the wound is not big, it still needs to be taken good care of. It was over 2 hours later when all the clothes were washed. To be careful, Wang Xiaoxiao still took out all the clothes from the space and hung them on the balcony to dry. She has always understood the truth that a man is innocent, but he is guilty. A magical thing like space cannot be known to anyone at the moment. After finishing these, she raised her hand to check the time. Oh my God, why is it still 9:10? Wang Xiaoxiao remembers very clearly that when he checked his watch before entering the space, it was already over 8:40, and he had washed 5 buckets of clothes, each of which took 45 minutes. Plus the time to hang the clothes, it would take 50 minutes. And now only over 20 minutes have passed. Is time in space stationary? To verify her hypothesis, she specifically checked the time again, at 9:13. Then he flashed into the space, took a comfortable bath, and took care of his face and body. Looking at time again after leaving space, it was still 9:13. As expected, Wang Xiaoxiao had a sudden idea. If she had stayed in space for decades, would she still look like she is now? How do you feel like an old monster? She smiled and shook her head, no longer daydreaming, and lay in bed to rest. On Chu Xingchen's side, he was staying in the office carefully reading a book when suddenly a knock came from outside the door. Then his friend Yang Xiangdong walked in with a cup of tea. Yang Xiangdong sat down opposite him, drinking tea and saying, "Still reading?" Chu Xingchen nodded and replied with the word, "I'm too busy today to ask, how is your friend doing?" After listening to his friend's words, Chu Xingchen paused for a moment and then replied, "There's nothing serious about your health." "That's good," Yang Xiangdong breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing it. Wang Xiaoxiao's family background is well known to the high-ranking officials of the military region, which can only be described as strong. If anything happens to her in the Northwest, with the degree to which the Wang family spoils her daughter, her good friends will also be doomed. He continued to mutter to his friend, "You really are. It's not good to marry someone. You insist on marrying such an ancestor back." Chu Xingchen did not reply, and marrying her was not his original intention. As soon as Yang Xiangdong finished speaking, he remembered that his friend was forced to marry, so he changed the topic and said, "What are you going to do now? If a woman continues to make trouble like this, your position may not be guaranteed." Chapter 5. Improving the relationship between two people. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chu Xingchen didn't understand, but he really had no idea about that woman. "I don't know, let's take a step and see. If you ask me, you might as well get divorced." Chu Xingchen looked at him like an idiot and said, "If this marriage were so easy to divorce, I would have divorced long ago." Yang Xiangdong remained silent. He didn't turn his head for a moment. After staring up at his friend's face for a long time, he suddenly said, "Otherwise you will ruin your appearance with dim sum." Originally, his friend was so handsome, and he secretly envied him for a long time. But since his friend was entangled by Wang Xiaoxiao, he was very lucky. Fortunately, his mother made him ordinary. Chu Xingchen. He looked up at his friend and said, "Why don't you go back to the dormitory to sleep at night?" Yang Xiangdong replied, "I'm on duty today." "Then go back to your duty room and stay there." "Alright, I'm leaving." He came over to care about his friends, and now that he's done caring, he should go back to avoid being reported for dereliction of duty. After Yang Xiangdong left, Chu Xingchen stared at the book in his hand and couldn't read it anymore. He couldn't help but imagine today's Wang Xiaoxiao in his mind. She didn't cry when she woke up, and the things she said, even when it was the most violent, she never heard her mention the word divorce. But today, she said, is it her own thoughts or is it testing him? And she even said thank you to him. By the way, and her gaze at him has become very clear, no longer the disgusting obsession she used to have. All these signs made him feel very unfamiliar, as if he had changed someone else. Chu Xingchen immediately shook his head and denied his own thoughts. As long as this woman didn't make a fuss, as for what else he wanted so much of. Put down the book in your hand, get up and walk behind the door, take out a marching folding bed, open it and lay down on the bed to rest. In the morning, the sky was still gray, and Chu Xingchen woke up. After washing up, he went out to buy breakfast for Wang Xiaoxiao. The woman was very spoiled and disliked the food in the army cafeteria. He had no choice but to go to the restaurant to bring her food, but he could tolerate all of this. His only wish was that she would not be a demon anymore. After buying breakfast and returning, the house was quiet, and there was no need to think about it. The woman was still sleeping. He placed the lunch box on the table, left a note, and turned around to leave. When Wang Xiaoxiao woke up, it was already dawn. She rubbed her eyes and got up, and casually picked a light blue brag from the cabinet to wear. Standing in front of the mirror, looking at the beautiful girl in the mirror, he nodded in satisfaction. It has to be said that the original owner had a very good eye, and the clothes she chose were all very beautiful and suitable for her. As he left the bedroom, he immediately saw a familiar lunch box on the table, with a note pressed under it. Wang Xiaoxiao walked over and picked up the note, which only read 2 words. Breakfast. This character is written quite well, it's very stylish, she murmured. No need to think, I also know that these were all left by Chu Xingchen. After putting down the note, I went to the restroom to tidy up briefly before eating breakfast. While eating, she wondered how she could improve her relationship with Chu Xingchen. In the end, she decided to make something delicious for him. It is said that in order to grab a man's heart, one must first grab his stomach. She occasionally brings some food to Chu Xingchen, and if she does so many times, it can definitely ease the relationship between the two. After all, there is an old saying that goes, hold a man's hand short, eat a man's mouth short. Do whatever you say. After breakfast, Wang Xiaoxiao went out with some money in tickets. Although there were many ingredients in the space refrigerator, the original owner had never started a fire at home since he had been in the Northwest for so long. As a big man, Chu Xingchen had been eating in the military cafeteria all along, and the kitchen was just a decoration for both of them, so she had to buy something to make it look good. The original owner knew about the nearby places selling things, and after sorting out her memories, she decided to go to the nearest military store. However, as a road enthusiast, she also overestimated her own abilities. Not long after going out, I got lost and had no choice but to stand still, intending to wait for a passerby to ask. What she didn't expect was that the original owner had a bad reputation and even stopped a few passers-by without paying attention to her. However, a kind-hearted aunt spoke up, but she still couldn't find her way. Finally, she overheard a conversation between the two women and learned that they were going to the store. She followed them quietly and finally found the store. The military store is not too large, but there are still quite a variety of products, including seasonal vegetables, oil and grain, and daily necessities. The salespeople in the store are 2 women in their 30s, one fat and one thin, both of whom are family members of the military. The 2 of them had already taken it for granted when they saw Wang Xiaoxiao coming. When they saw Wang Xiaoxiao carefully selecting vegetables, they were still shocked. The skinny salesperson stared at Wang Xiaoxiao with wide eyes, poked the chubby salesperson with his hand, and whispered, "Red sister, I didn't read it wrong, did I?" Wang Xiaoxiao didn't go to pick snacks today and started looking at dishes instead. The chubby salesperson's eyes were also full of surprise, but she didn't gossip so much. She also whispered, "It's none of our business what they buy. We just need to do our own thing well." Wang Xiaoxiao. She ignored the conversation between the two and carefully selected the necessary ingredients, taking a little bit of each one. She planned to take out the things from the apartment and add them when she went back. The cashier who collected the money was the chubby one. When she saw that Wang Xiaoxiao had bought so many things, she enthusiastically asked, "Comrade Wang, can you carry it? Do you want me to help you deliver it back?" Wang Xiaoxiao didn't expect this chubby older sister to be quite kind, willing to help her with the same kind of demeanor as the original owner. She smiled and said, "Thank you, big sister. I can take it back." After paying the bill, Wang Xiaoxiao continued to follow the two people back with two large woven bags. At this time, things were really cheap. She bought rice, flour, oil, pork, chicken, beans, potatoes, cauliflower, cabbage, cucumber, fungus, radish, and some kitchen utensils for less than 10 yuan. Although she chose very few ingredients, the price really surprised her. Walking to the family home, both of them went back one after another, but now she is not worried because she knows the rest of the way. Returning home and closing the door, Wang Xiaoxiao couldn't wait to add things to the space. She flashed into the space and as soon as she opened the refrigerator, she noticed something unusual. The strawberries and cherries she had eaten yesterday appeared completely inside the refrigerator. Originally, her space also has regeneration function. Wang Xiaoxiao was so excited that she wanted to lie on the ground and roll a few times. In recent years, she has developed a habit of crazy shopping due to the pandemic. She even spent a lot of money customizing two super large capacity refrigerators, both of which were filled by her. The miscellaneous room in the apartment was also filled with essential items such as rice, noodles, and meat. That means she won't have to worry about starving anymore in the future. Excited for a long time, I tried my best to calm down, but the corners of my mouth couldn't be suppressed. Take out the corresponding items from the space and mix them into the items bought from the military store today. After finishing these, she started making lunch. When Wang Xiaoxiao was in school, she worked several part-time jobs alone to earn her tuition and living expenses. As a result, she learned many life skills, and cooking is one of them. Although not comparable to top chefs, it is better than ordinary chefs. There are quite a few ingredients, so she plans to stir-fry a few more dishes. Braised pork belly in brown sauce, fried pork with black fungus, spare ribs and potato soup, dry fried beans, cold cucumber salad. As for the staple food, of course, it is rice. Chapter 6. I'm here to send you meals. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Looking at the big pot stove in the kitchen, Wang Xiaoxiao began to struggle. How should he start a fire? The original owner didn't know it, and she didn't know it either. After all, this thing has been eliminated in later generations. In the end, she had to take the ingredients to the space to make them. When she finds an opportunity in the future, she should learn how to use this stove well. After all, in order to live in this era for a long time, she must adapt to this era and not overly rely on space. Because she didn't know how big Chu Xingchen's appetite was, she picked up more rice and thought of bringing more to avoid not having enough to eat. After steaming the rice into the rice cooker, we started to cook pork rib soup. After cleaning the pork ribs, add cold water to the pot, add cooking wine and ginger slices, cook until frothy, remove from the pot, put into a pressure cooker, add chopped potatoes, and slowly simmer with salt. The next few home-cooked dishes will naturally not be difficult for her. When dishes with all their colors, flavors, and flavors were placed on the table, Wang Xiaoxiao nodded in satisfaction, but she couldn't believe it and couldn't control Chu Xingchen. After leaving the space and checking the time, it was already around 11 or 10 o'clock. I quickly found 2 large lunch boxes and put the dishes and rice inside. She changed into a striped dress with blue and white stripes, and her hair was all tied up into buns, making her whole person much fresher all at once. As soon as I walked out with my lunch box in hand, I saw several women gathered together, not knowing what they were discussing, each with a lively expression. However, when they saw her, everyone fell silent for a moment, some with a shy expression on their faces, while others continued to flirt with her. Wang Xiaoxiao. No need to think, I also know that the object of discussion among these women just now was her. As for the content, it definitely wasn't good either. The best way to treat these people is to ignore them and let them perform on their own. So Wang Xiaoxiao passed in front of them without even giving them a glance. Sure enough, those women dispersed one by one with low interest. She followed the original owner's memory and walked towards Chu Xingchen's office. This road had been walked countless times by the original owner, but she still had some impression. There was no need to be asked by passers-by. It was time for dinner, and she met many people along the way. Like yesterday, most people hold an ignoring attitude towards her. Wang Xiaoxiao didn't pay attention to them either. Her pace quickened, and she had to deliver the food before Chu Xingchen went to the cafeteria. Otherwise, the whole morning's time would have been wasted. After exploring for a while, Wang Xiaoxiao finally found the military office area. He couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, feeling very tired. Wiping the sweat off his face, he continued forward and entered the office area. Within a few steps, he ran into a small soldier. The little soldier immediately showed a frightened expression when he saw her, then turned around and ran away. Wang Xiaoxiao shook his head helplessly. The original owner's reputation was really poor. Just a few steps away from Chu Xingchen's office, a panicked voice could be heard coming from inside. "It's not good, Captain. Your wife has been causing trouble again." Wang Xiaoxiao was speechless. I was supposed to report it to the authorities. After tidying up my mood, I took a few steps and reached out to knock on the door. In the office, Chu Xingchen frowned at Xiao Li's words and was about to inquire when he heard a knocking at the door. He could only suppress his restlessness and say, "Please come in." Upon hearing this, Wang Xiaoxiao pushed open the door and walked in. In the office, besides Chu Xingchen, there were several people wearing military uniforms. One of the original owners had seen him before, and he was Chu Xingchen's friend Yang Xiangdong. The rest of them were strangers. Judging from the appearance of a few people, it seems that they are discussing something. A few people saw her, their eyes clearly filled with vigilance, and some even openly showed hostility. Of course, there was also one exception, with a gloating expression on his face, clearly wanting to see Chu Xingchen embarrass himself. Wang Xiaoxiao recalled for a moment and soon had a clue. Isn't this person Feng Hongxia's husband? As expected, not a family, not entering the same door. She withdrew her gaze and smiled apologetically at everyone, then turned to look at Chu Xingchen and said, "I didn't disturb you, did I?" Chu Xingchen was noticeably stunned when she saw that the person coming was Wang Xiaoxiao. It should be noted that in the past, she used to enter her own office by simply pushing the door open. It's not like today when she knocked on the door and only entered after obtaining permission. Upon hearing her words, I regained my senses and looked at her with a vigilant gaze. Without answering, I asked, "What are you doing here?" Wang Xiaoxiao pointed to the lunch box in his hand and smiled, "I'll bring you food." Upon hearing this, everyone else had a ghostly expression. Chu Xingchen naturally didn't believe that she would be so kind anymore. After all, there must be a demon. He immediately refused, "No need, I'll go to the cafeteria to eat later." Wang Xiaoxiao ignored him and placed his lunch box on the table next to him. "Hurry up first, remember to eat after you're busy," he said. "By the way, I will cook at home from now on, so you don't have to go to the cafeteria." After leaving this sentence, she left. Seeing her leave like this, Li Guoyang's heart was filled with regret and disappointment. Why didn't this crazy woman make a scene today? It's really a pity. No, he needs to go back and talk to his own wife later, so that he can instigate and provoke her again. This crazy woman doesn't make a fuss. How could Chu Xingchen be taken down by him? A group of people in the room who seemed to be facing a formidable enemy relaxed as she left, and at the same time, they were curious. What happened to the captain's wife today? Not only did it not cause any trouble, but I also personally cooked and brought it to the group leader. Chu Xingchen was also confused and thought to himself, was that woman really just coming over to deliver a meal? He cleared his throat and said to the people in the room, let's call it a day for the meeting. The rest of the matter will be discussed in the afternoon. Let's go eat first. Several subordinates said in unison, yes, Captain. In the blink of an eye, a few subordinates left, leaving only him and Yang Xiangdong. Yang Xiangdong patted his friend's shoulder and asked, what is the situation? Chu Xingchen shook his head, he didn't know either. Both of them were lost in thought, and suddenly Yang Xiangdong yelled in shock, I understand. That woman must have loved her so much that she wanted to poison you. Chu Xingchen. He invited his idiot-like friend out of the door with his hand and left a sentence. Go eat. Then, the door closed. Yang Xiangdong shouted outside the door, Old Chu, you must not have that meal. Wait until I go to the cafeteria to bring it to you. After speaking, he quickly went to the cafeteria. Chu Xingchen stared at the lunch box on the table, not knowing what he was thinking. After a while, he finally opened it. As soon as he opened it, the aroma of the food rushed into his nostrils. Looking at the delicious food in front of him, he didn't believe it was made by that delicate and lazy Wang Xiaoxiao. You should know that woman usually finds it hard, tiring, and dirty. When she comes to the Northwest, she despises everything and has never taken a step into the kitchen. She can cook. How could it be? Moreover, these dishes have a very good appearance, and the taste is simply delicious. It's better to say they were bought from a state-owned restaurant rather than being cooked by her. But what exactly is her purpose in doing this? He couldn't imagine what she really wanted. If he couldn't figure it out, he stopped thinking. Adhering to the principle of not wasting food, he picked up his chopsticks and started eating. The pork rib soup is delicious, and the pork ribs are stewed very poorly. You don't need to chew them very much when putting them in your mouth to swallow, and the potatoes are also so delicious that you want to swallow them with your tongue. Chopsticks are used to pick up the remaining dishes, without exception, they all taste very good. Sitting in his current position, he had eaten many good things, but the dishes in front of him still surprised him a bit. Chapter 7. Suspicion. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chu Xingchen was puzzled in his heart at this moment, was it really Wang Xiaoxiao who did these things? You should know that he has tried dishes from several nearby restaurants and knows a little about the chefs. He is certain that these dishes were not made by them. Chu Xingchen didn't think much anymore and started eating the food seriously. He ate 2 large lunch boxes clean and tidy. After dinner, Chu Xingchen thought for a long time, then went out with a lunch box. As soon as he arrived at the door, he remembered something and folded it back. He took out some money and tickets from the drawer and put them in his pocket. Wang Xiaoxiao spent a lot of money on this meal, and there is no need to think that the money and tickets he gave her yesterday have already been wasted by her. He has already experienced that woman's extravagance. As soon as Wang Xiaoxiao returned home, he closed the bedroom door and quickly entered the space to have lunch. Sure enough, the food she cooked was delicious. She didn't believe that Chu Xingchen wouldn't be tempted by such delicious food. After finishing his meal and tidying up the kitchen, Wang Xiaoxiao didn't have any space and lay down directly on his comfortable and soft big bed. Ah, it's really comfortable. It's much better than that hard bed board. I was about to have a good night's sleep when suddenly there was a knocking sound at the door. Wang Xiaoxiao was startled in his heart, and his consciousness flashed out of space and appeared in the bedroom. After tidying up his mind, he opened the bedroom door and walked out. He opened the door and saw the people outside. Wang Xiaoxiao immediately regretted wanting to close the door. Feng Hongxia looked at her and couldn't help but think of what her man hurriedly said at noon, that this woman had gone to deliver food to Chu Xingchen. What is this woman doing? Is it okay to reconcile with Chu Xingchen? No, she definitely won't allow such a situation to happen. Thinking of this, she put aside her thoughts and smiled at the corners of her mouth, saying, Xiaoxiao. Wang Xiaoxiao looked wearily at Feng Hongxia standing outside the door and said, What's up? If you have nothing to do, get out of here quickly. It's annoying. Feng Hongxia pretended to be gentle and said, I'll bring you lunch. Wang Xiaoxiao only felt that the smile was fake. Besides, would she be so kind to bring her lunch? Of course not, you know she used to often pick on the original owner's belongings. You don't have to think about it. She definitely didn't feel well coming over now. I have eaten it, please keep it for yourself and eat slowly. Feng Hongxia took Wang Xiaoxiao's hand and said, Xiaoxiao, I know I was wrong. Yesterday, I was also worried about you. Don't be angry, aren't we good friends? Don't you understand how I treat you? As the two spoke, many family members had already gathered around the door. Seeing this situation, they all muttered to themselves, Wang Xiaoxiao is going to start making noise again. Wang Xiaoxiao snorted coldly and looked at Feng Hongxia, who seemed to have suffered a lot. How did you treat me? Since I first came here, I've been murmuring in my ear, Xiaoxiao, you're a girl from Beijing. How can you suffer in this remote and impoverished place? Follow my sister.In.Law's advice and let Captain Chu take you back to Beijing. If he doesn't agree, you'll make a fuss. After a while, he will definitely agree. When I was arguing with my man, he instigated in my ear, Xiaoxiao, once this man is not good to you, he is thinking of divorce in his heart. If you don't care, he will definitely leave you. If my sister.In.Law says, you should go to the team leader's place to make a fuss. He will definitely retract those thoughts in fear. When Wang Xiaoxiao said this, he deliberately imitated Feng Hongxia's voice and tone. If he didn't look at his face, everyone would think it was Feng Hongxia speaking. Feng Hongxia was also shocked when she heard this. She pointed at Wang Xiaoxiao with an incredulous expression on her face and said, You actually learn from me. It's okay if she doesn't speak, as soon as she speaks, she almost exposes herself. The family members gathered at the door suddenly understood what was going on, and their gaze at Feng Hongxia changed instantly. An aunt who just came to the team yesterday pointed at Feng Hongxia and said, Why are you so malicious? When the little girl was hospitalized yesterday, you went to the hospital to expose her. Today, as soon as she was discharged, you eagerly came to her door again. I think the little girl is too innocent to be deceived by you. If I were to leave her alone, I would have kicked you out with a broom long ago. A few military sister. In.Law couldn't help but recall when they first came to the team, they had a lot of trouble with their own men due to Feng Hongxia's instigation. This woman is really cunning. When I first arrived, she told me something similar. Isn't that right? When I first came here, I had a lot of trouble with my own man. Now, isn't it just because I was tempted by this woman? It's really a matter of knowing people's faces but not their hearts. Look at these words, they were first heard for your own good, but after a little careful consideration, isn't it just provoking others? Wang Xiaoxiao also spoke appropriately at this moment, her eyes turning red, and she said, Sister-in-law, you taught me how to make trouble, but as a result, my man doesn't want me anymore. Now, are you happy? As she spoke, tears streamed down her face. Her appearance made the onlookers couldn't help but feel heartbroken. Comrade Wang, don't cry. You were also deceived into acting so recklessly. Captain Chu will definitely forgive you if he finds out, he comforted. Feng Hongxia panicked instantly after listening to everyone's words. She first looked pitifully at them and said, "Sisters-in-law, please don't believe what Wang Xiaoxiao said. You still don't know what kind of person she is." Then he pointed at Wang Xiaoxiao and shouted loudly, "Xiaoxiao, how could you say that? When did I say this to you? Don't wrongly accuse me." Wang Xiaoxiao also put away her tears and said sternly, "Since you say I have wronged you, do you dare to confront me in front of the leader? You know, there were others around when you said that." In fact, she was actually deceiving Feng Hongxia with these words. How could she have caused trouble in front of the leader over such a small matter? Besides, she doesn't remember whether there are witnesses or not. However, Feng Hongxia felt guilty. Believing her words made her even more flustered. "Xiaoxiao, how could you please excuse the leader for such a small matter?" The onlookers completely believed Wang Xiaoxiao's words after seeing her like this, and they all thought to themselves that they should stay away from Feng Hongxia in the future to avoid being calculated by this person one day. Feng Hongxia knew that she had a difficult start today, so she had to find a way to evacuate first. "I still consider you my best friend. I didn't expect you to treat me like this. You've disappointed me so much." After leaving this sentence, she cried and ran away. Wang Xiaoxiao watched her escape without any hesitation. Anyway, she had already achieved half of her goal today, and she had more important things to do. At this thought, she immediately put on a look of grievance and muttered to herself, "I trusted you so much just because I treated you like a good friend, but I didn't expect." Speaking of which, tears streamed down her face again. She pretended to be strong and wiped away her tears, then bowed to the military sister.In.Law who was watching, saying, "While all the sister.In.Law are here today, I solemnly apologize to everyone again. It used to be that I didn't understand people clearly and did many wrong things. I hope all the sister.In.Law understand my mistakes." When everyone saw her like this, they couldn't help but sympathize with her. A naive little girl who had just arrived in a strange place, she was already a bit scared and didn't expect to be used and provoked by others. "Comrade Wang, we all understand now, and you didn't mean to. Don't worry, we won't take it to heart. Comrade Wang, it's not your fault for this. If you want to blame it, blame the bad person who instigated you. It's really immoral. Comrade Wang, don't cry now. Sisters-in-law are all understanding people. Yeah, don't be sad anymore. People like that are not worth your sadness." Wang Xiaoxiao looked gratefully at the crowd and wiped away her tears, saying, "I'm not sad. After this incident, I completely understand that she didn't treat me as a friend." Then he looked at the crowd with a naive expression and said, "I just don't understand why she treated me like that. It's okay for me to make trouble with my man. Why bother instigating me to go to the leader's place to make trouble? What benefits does this have for her?" After listening to her words, everyone couldn't help but think, yes, what are the benefits of Feng Hongxia doing this? Quickly, everyone understood. Isn't it just for the sake of his man that Wang Xiaoxiao went to the leader's place to make trouble? Isn't it just that he wanted the leader to punish Captain Chu? Can the position of Captain Chu still be preserved after many attempts? After Captain Chu came down, didn't her man go up? At the thought of this, everyone was deeply shocked. This person was not only malicious, but also resorted to any means to achieve his goals. Although there are usually fights between military sister-in-law, they never involve men's work, so who instructed Feng Hongxia to do so? The answer is obvious. At this point, the onlookers couldn't stay any longer and just said a few words before leaving one after another. They had to hurry back to their men to avoid being calculated by those with ulterior motives. Wang Xiaoxiao looked at the expressions on everyone's faces and knew that they had understood. This was the result she wanted. Step by step, change the bad reputation left by the original owner, while also helping Chu Xingchen solve the problems caused by the original owner. She smiled as she bid farewell to her sister.In.Law, hummed a tune in a good mood, returned to the room, closed the door, flashed into the space, and continued to rest on the comfortable and soft big bed. What Wang Xiaoxiao didn't know was that as soon as she returned to the house, Chu Xingchen walked out of the darkness. Having witnessed all of this, his emotions were very complicated. My mind is full of what Wang Xiaoxiao just said. After a long time, he pushed open the courtyard door with his lunch box in hand. Wang Xiaoxiao was just a little drowsy when she heard the sound of the door opening. She was startled and instantly regained consciousness. With a flash of consciousness, she left the room and appeared in the bedroom. After tidying up his mind, he opened the bedroom door and walked out. Seeing Chu Xingchen in the living room, he instinctively asked, "How did you come back?" Chu Xingchen was taken aback at the words. She used to be eager for him to come back, and whenever she saw him, she would stick it up like a dead skin ointment. What's going on now? How do you hear her tone like she doesn't want to come back? He couldn't help but recall the scene that had just happened. Dealing with things with ease, 3 people can easily make a group of people think according to her train of thought. In just a few words he calmly glanced at the woman in front of him. Is this really Wang Xiaoxiao? Chu Xingchen replied lightly, "I'll bring back the lunchbox." Wang Xiaoxiao nodded awkwardly, unsure of what he was saying. Chu Xingchen brought his lunchbox to the kitchen, intending to clean it. He accidentally glanced at the stove, which was very clean and didn't look like he had cooked lunch at noon. Wang Xiaoxiao looked at him staring at the stove and was shocked. How could she forget that Chu Xingchen was an excellent soldier, and his observation ability must be more powerful than ordinary people? She was afraid that he would have flaws while staring, so she rushed over and blocked his sight. At the same time, she took the lunchbox from his hand and pushed him out of the kitchen. "You go rest, I'll just wash it." Chu Xingchen looked at her with an inexplicable expression, then turned around and went to the living room. Wang Xiaoxiao felt extremely guilty at his glance. She hid in the kitchen and patted her fluctuating heartbeat. Oh my God, this person is too terrifying. She needs to be more cautious in the future. After washing the lunchbox and coming out, she was surprised to see Chu Xingchen still sitting in the living room. Isn't he hiding from the original owner? How do you feel like you're not hiding now? Chu Xingchen saw her come out and said in a cold voice, "Come here." Seeing his interrogative demeanor, Wang Xiaoxiao immediately wanted to escape. However, his aura was too strong, and he had to obey his orders. He obediently walked over and sat down far away from him. Little did they know that her behavior made Chu Xingchen even more suspicious. You should know that Wang Xiaoxiao was not so obedient in the past. Chu Xingchen's gaze fell on the woman across from him, and his doubts grew more and more in his heart. Wang Xiaoxiao was stared at by him, so nervous that he dared not even take a breath. Alas, it's really tiring to get along with someone who is too smart. After a moment, Chu Xingchen withdrew his gaze and handed over some money and tickets from his pocket. "Take these and spend them first," he said. Wang Xiaoxiao shook his head and said, "No need, I still have it." Chu Xingchen's salary and allowance are only over 180 yuan per month. At the beginning of the month, when he was just paid, he was instigated by the original owner to spend a lot of money on 100 yuan. She must have spent a lot of money on hospitalization due to illness. Yesterday, he gave her 30 yuan, and it is estimated that he has not much left now. Actually, Chu Xingchen should be considered a good man. He is willing to spend money on his wife and also takes good care of the original owner. Except for not liking the original owner, everything else is good. Seeing that she didn't answer, Chu Xingchen directly placed the money on the table and said, "I'm going to work," before getting up and leaving. After he left, Wang Xiaoxiao finally breathed a sigh of relief. It was really a safe and easy situation. She knew there was a big difference between herself and the original owner, but she really couldn't learn the arrogant and unreasonable nature of the original owner. Scratching his hair impatiently, he let it go. Anyway, no one would believe in talking about soul piercing. The big deal is to say that after experiencing life and death yesterday, he suddenly came to a complete realization, so his temperament underwent a huge change. After thinking it through, I no longer dwell on it. My gaze fell on the tickets and the ones placed on the table. After some thought, I reached out and picked them up. Counting them, it was still 30 yuan, just like yesterday. She put the money into the small treasury of the original owner. The original owner was really a spendthrift. In my memory, when she came to the Northwest, her mother gave her a full 400 yuan, her father secretly gave her all 200 yuan of private money, her grandparents gave her 150 yuan each, and her elder brother gave her 100 yuan, adding up to exactly 1,000 yuan. You should know that in this era where ordinary workers earn only 20.30 yuan a month, 1,000 yuan is definitely a huge sum of money. As a wealthy and raised Bai Fumei, the original owner had no concept of money. After only coming to the Northwest for more than 2 months, he lost half of the money, not including what Chu Xingchen gave him. Wang Xiaoxiao counted the money in the small vault, and with the money given by Chu Xingchen today, there were still 580 left, which was enough for her to spend for a long time. Just as she was about to put the money back into the cabinet, a thought suddenly came to her mind. She secretly put the small vault into the space, then took out a few clothes from the cabinet, flipped through the original owner's snack box, and took a few snacks, putting all these things into the space. After finishing these, she lay in bed and rested happily in the afternoon. After waking up and checking the time, it was only after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. With nothing to do, I picked up the original owner's book and started reading. Although the original owner had a lot of bad habits, he also had an advantage, which was that he studied very well, was a reliable academic bully, and had an unknown secret that was unforgettable. If such talents were left in later generations, they would definitely be a member of Harvard or Massachusetts. Unfortunately, at this time, the college entrance examination was cancelled, and it was impossible to even go to college, let alone study abroad. So this person can only be buried. After reading for over an hour, Wang Xiaoxiao put down the book in his hand. Chu Xingchen's gaze was too sneaky. She had to learn how to cook on an earthen stove no matter what in the afternoon. Arriving at the kitchen, I cut half of the watermelon I bought in the store this morning and took it out with me. Arriving at the neighboring house, she reached out and knocked on the door, which quickly opened. Coincidentally, the hostess of the house was the chubby lady she had met in the store this morning. Chapter 8. False Alarm. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Pang Dejie's name is Lu Xiaohong, and her husband is a deputy regiment under Chu Xingchen. She didn't expect that the person outside was Wang Xiaoxiao. She was surprised and froze at the door. After realizing this, she welcomed Wang Xiaoxiao into the room with a nervous heart. Comrade Wang, the house is a bit messy. Don't mind sitting around casually. I'll pour you a glass of water. Wang Xiaoxiao didn't take her reaction to heart either. Although the incident at noon changed everyone's view of her, the reputation of the original owner couldn't be reversed in just a few words. Time sees the heart, don't worry, take it slow. She smiled and said, thank you, sister.in.law. I'm not thirsty, please don't trouble me. After she finished speaking, she sat on the small stool in the living room and said, my sister.in.law looks like a capable person. The house is much tidier than me. Lu Xiaohong smiled and insisted on going to the kitchen to pour her a glass of water, then sat down opposite her. Wang Xiaoxiao's face lit up with a sweet smile as he handed over the watermelon in his hand. Hello sister.in.law, I bought some watermelon and brought some for you to try, he said. Lu Xiaohong declined and said, Comrade Wang, you're really serious. Just bring someone here, what else are you bringing? After this kind of back and forth struggle, Wang Xiaoxiao placed the watermelon on the table and withdrew her hand. Lu Xiaohong pushed it off for a while, but in the end, she reluctantly accepted it. At the same time, her heart became even more uneasy, afraid that Wang Xiaoxiao would cause trouble again. Wang Xiaoxiao symbolically took a few sips of water before awkwardly explaining his purpose. Sister-in-law, do you have time now? Can you do me a favor? After hearing these words, Lu Xiaohong felt relieved. She smiled and said, what do you mean? I was originally planning to cook dinner, but I don't know what's going on. The stove's fire never starts for life, and I would like your help to see what's going on. For safety reasons, Wang Xiaoxiao did not say he didn't know, but rather that there was a problem with the stove. She plans to find someone to help start a fire, and then she will steal the teacher and learn the art. After listening to these words, Lu Xiaohong completely relaxed and readily responded, it's easy, I'll go take a look with you. Okay, thank you, sister.In.Law. The two families are very close and arrived within 2 steps. She opened the door and welcomed Lu Xiaohong in. Just as she was about to pour water, she saw Lu Xiaohong waving her hand and saying, I'll go show you what's going on with the stove first. It's almost time for dinner, so don't delay making dinner. Upon hearing this, Wang Xiaoxiao didn't hesitate and took Lu Xiaohong into the kitchen. Lu Xiaohong sat on a small stool and studied for a while before saying, there's no problem with the stove. You can pour some water into the pot and I'll try making a fire. Wang Xiaoxiao nodded, picked up a water ladle, poured water into the pot, and didn't forget to say, excuse me, sister.In.Law. Lu Xiaohong smiled and said, you're welcome. After finishing, she rolled up her sleeves and went to the yard. She picked up some branches and wooden sticks and carried them back to the kitchen. She first put the leaves into the stove, pressed thin branches on top of them, and then lit them with a match. In no time, the flames lit up, and only after seeing the flames grow larger did they add thick wooden sticks. Lu Xiaohong started the fire and said, Comrade Wang, I don't see much firewood in your yard anymore. You should go to the mountain to pick up some when you have time, otherwise there won't be much fire left when you run out. Also, you should keep less spare firewood in the kitchen. If it rains and the firewood outside gets wet, it will be difficult to start a fire. Wang Xiaoxiao silently memorized the steps to start a fire on the side and quickly said, I have taken note of my sister.In.Law. The two of them talked about some common customs, and when it became popular, Lu Xiaohong said goodbye. Wang Xiaoxiao pleaded, my sister.In.Law, please keep it for a while before you go back after finishing your meal. Lu Xiaohong shook her head and said with a smile, no, my family and Bai Xiaozi are also going back soon. I also have to go home and cook. After speaking, she stood up and walked out, wondering how she felt Comrade Wang had changed. Wang Xiaoxiao escorted her out, closed the door only after seeing her leave, and went to the kitchen to cook dinner. In the afternoon, Chu Xingchen finished training and was walking back with a few teammates when he suddenly remembered everything he saw in the kitchen at noon. He stopped and raised his hand to take a look at the time. It was time for lunch, so he decided to go back and take a look. A few teammates saw him stop and turned around to ask what was wrong. Chu Xingchen replied, you guys go first, I'll go home and take a look. Seeing his solemn expression, a teammate instinctively asked, your wife has been causing trouble again. Chu Xingchen shook his head and was about to say, no, but before he could speak, he saw a small soldier rushing over and shouting loudly, Captain Chu, Captain Chu. Your house is on fire. Upon hearing this, Chu Xingchen's face changed and he didn't have time to inquire. He immediately ran home. A few teammates listened and followed closely behind him. After running for a while, I saw smoke coming from the direction of my own kitchen from a distance. When I got closer, I realized that all the smoke was coming out of the kitchen chimney. Seeing this, Chu Xingchen instantly understood what was going on. At the same time, I was also puzzled. Is it because Wang Xiaoxiao cleaned the kitchen too clean that he made a mistake in his judgment at noon? The few people closely following Chu Xingchen saw him suddenly stop and quickly asked, why did it stop? Is it hopeless? Chu Xingchen's face turned black when he heard this. He said, there's no fire, probably she's cooking in the kitchen. A few people breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing these words and chattered incessantly. It turned out to be a false alarm, it scared me to death. That's right, running here makes me tired. Who owns the kid who lied about military information? Practice well tomorrow, what kind of eyes are these? Chu Xingchen patted the shoulders of several people and said, we'll treat you to dinner another day. A few people smiled and said a few words, then walked together towards the cafeteria. After some thought, Chu Xingchen decided to go home first. As soon as I stepped into the yard, I smelled a fragrant aroma of food. Thinking of the delicious lunch, Chu Xingchen instinctively rolled his throat. Pushing open the door, I immediately saw the woman cooking in the kitchen. The military green dress was loosely draped over her, possibly due to the heat, and the collar opening was untied, revealing the delicate collarbone. The length of the skirt is very short, just reaching the base of the woman's thighs. Her legs are straight and slender, and her skin is as white as snow under the sun. The scenery at the bottom of the skirt is faintly visible. Chu Xingchen suddenly withdrew his gaze, turned his back stiffly, and cleared his dry throat. I secretly despised my shameless behavior in my heart. Strangely, even though I didn't feel the temptation from her last time, what's going on today? Wang Xiaoxiao heard the sound and looked up to see Chu Xingchen, showing a brilliant smile. You're back. The meal will be ready soon. Her small face is already very delicate, and when she smiles, the pear vortex at the corner of her mouth is faintly visible, instantly cute and playful. Chu Xingchen turned back again and happened to catch her bright smile. His heart couldn't help but jump a few times, and his fingers moved slightly, wanting to poke those two mischievous dimples. Chapter 9. Doesn't mean you're trying to seduce him, do you? You are listening at novel-full.audio. With lowered eyes and restrained his absurd thoughts, he entered the kitchen and took the shovel from the woman's hand, saying, I'll do it. You go back to the house and put on your clothes. Wang Xiaoxiao lowered her head and glanced at the silk nightgown she had just changed into, muttering softly, isn't this dressed well? She stayed in the kitchen for a while, but couldn't bear the heat. She took out a simple style nightgown from the space and put it on. Although her voice was very low, Chu Xingchen, who had a strong ear, still heard her. He coughed and said in a stiff voice, put on your pants and button them up. Wang Xiaoxiao. She could only accept her fate and return to the room to change clothes. As soon as she arrived, she heard the cold voice of the man behind her. In the future, don't use these crooked thoughts anymore. Wang Xiaoxiao is completely confused. What twisted thoughts did she have? Just as I was about to ask, suddenly a picture flashed in my mind of the original owner's clothes, half unraveling the temptation of Chu Xingchen. She helped her forehead. Oh my God, Chu Xingchen wouldn't think she was dressed like this to seduce him. Wang Xiaoxiao immediately turned around and explained, I didn't mean to, it's just that the kitchen is too hot. She swore that in the future, she would keep these pajamas and hide alone in her room at night to slowly wear them. Chu Xingchen clearly didn't believe her words. There's no way, we can only prove it through actions in the future. After changing her clothes and coming out, Chu Xingchen had already put the remaining dish on a plate. When she came out, she said, I'm going to train. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and walked out. Wang Xiaoxiao raised his hand and looked at the time. It was already past 6 o'clock. It was time for rest, so there could be no training at all. It was probably to avoid her. With a sigh in his heart, he said to his back, the food is ready. I'll put it in the lunch box for you later, and you can take it with you. Upon hearing these words, Chu Xingchen paused for a moment. In fact, there was no training, he was just afraid that this woman would only cook her own meal. He turned back awkwardly and said awkwardly, then I'll finish before I go. Wang Xiaoxiao was so happy to see him like this. He's quite cute. Quickly serving the food on the table, Chu Xingchen also came to help. In the afternoon, Wang Xiaoxiao made 4 dishes and 1 soup, including stewed chicken with mushrooms, stir-fried pork with beans, sweet and sour pork tenderloin, braised eggplant in brown sauce, shredded cold potatoes, and noodles as the main dish. She used to go hungry when she was in an orphanage, but when she grew up capable, she never treated herself unfairly in terms of food. After Chu Xingchen sat down opposite her, he immediately handed him a pair of chopsticks and said eagerly, "Try the taste." How could she miss such an excellent opportunity to repair the relationship? Chu Xingchen looked at the tempting dishes on the table and reached out his chopsticks to pick up the nearest braised eggplant. Without any surprise, the taste was very good. He said seriously, "It's delicious, but he's a bit of a spendthrift. It seems that he needs to work hard to earn money in the future, otherwise he might not be able to afford the woman in front of him." Chu Xingchen had not yet realized that Wang Xiaoxiao was already included in his future plans. Upon hearing these words, Wang Xiaoxiao's eyes lit up instantly. She smiled and said, "Eat more." In the tone, there is an indescribable pride. She has always been very confident in her cooking skills. Chu Xingchen couldn't help but look at her in his eyes. For the first time, he felt so confident and proud that she was very cute. Strictly speaking, this was the first time they had sat at the same table eating. He had never imagined that one day, the two would be able to eat calmly on the ground, let alone that King Xiaoxiao would prepare food for him and wait for him to come back. If it can continue like this, it seems very good. After hearing a satisfactory reply, Wang Xiaoxiao ignored him and started eating on her own. In order to be lazy, she didn't roll out noodles, but cooked the noodles she bought in the shop in the morning. Somehow, she always felt that she was eating a local flavor. Although the two of them were eating their respective bowls of food without much communication, the warm atmosphere was everywhere in the air. Compared to the warm scene here, the Feng family is a bit miserable. After the sister.In-law returned home at noon, they all warned their men to stay away from Feng Hongxia's men. At first, the men were confused and didn't understand why their daughter.In-law wanted to say such things. After asking the reason, everyone was surprised. They didn't expect Li Guoyang, who appeared honest on the surface, to have such a deep plan, and this method was too cunning, right? How dare they have deep friendships with such people? Maybe one day they'll stab themselves in the back. So after starting work in the afternoon, there was a phenomenon where several team leaders intentionally or unintentionally kept away from Li Yuliang, their eyes full of vigilance. Even his subordinates couldn't help but scrutinize him. Li Yuliang didn't understand why everyone began to distance themselves from him in just one noon. Finally, I eavesdropped on several subordinates in the restroom and found out that everything was related to what Feng Hongxia did. After a scorching afternoon of anger, I finally managed to endure it until I finished training and didn't even eat anything, so I angrily went home. Pushing open the door, Li Guoyang couldn't help but see Feng Hongxia sitting on the sofa. "Feng Hongxia, look at what you've done." Feng Hongxia was trembling all afternoon. Seeing Li Guoyang's angry expression, her face turned pale with fear. She quickly stood up and grabbed his hand, saying, "Guoyang, listen to me explain." Li Guoyang impatiently threw away her hand and said, "Explain. You go explain to everyone. What's the use of explaining to me alone?" Feng Hongxia muttered, I just said a few words and didn't pull her to do it." "Did you say a few words? Thanks to you, my comrades are almost treating me like an enemy now. How could you be so capable?" "Guoyang, I was wrong. I did it for you too, and you also asked me to go at noon. Isn't all of what she did tacitly agreed upon by him? Some of them were even signaled by him, why did he blame her instead now?" Li Guoyang choked for a moment, his intestines were almost regretful now. If he had known this was the case, he wouldn't have let the woman who had more than enough success and more than enough defeat pass by at noon. "I really had 8 lifetimes of bad luck to marry a woman like you." Leave this sentence, he will smash the door and leave. I didn't expect Feng Hongxia to be instantly unhappy upon hearing these words. She grabbed Li Guoyang and said, what do you mean by that? What does it mean to have had 8 lifetimes of bad luck before marrying me? Don't you know what you're doing yourself? If it weren't for what you're doing, could I marry you? Speaking of this, Li Guoyang is full of anger. He had a girl he had liked before, and was about to discuss marriage. He didn't expect to be kicked by this woman, and it was also his carelessness that led him to fall for this woman's trap. What did I do? It was clearly your intention at first sight. Am I interested in seeing the color? Li Guoyang looked at her up and down and said, it's just like you. I only get interested in seeing the color when I'm blind. After finishing speaking, he slammed the door and left. Feng Hongxia immediately ran after him when she saw this, shouting loudly, Li Guoyang, what are you going to do so late? Are you enchanted by the fox spirits outside? Li Guoyang was instantly flustered upon hearing these words, and if someone with intentions heard him, they would have to report him for having a problem with his style. Without even thinking about it, she slapped her face and said, Feng Hongxia, what are you talking nonsense about? Then his behavior made Feng Hongxia think he was feeling guilty. Li Guoyang, you're such a good person. How dare you treat me like this? As she spoke, she pounced and reached out to scratch Li Guoyang's face, while not forgetting to punch and kick each other. Li Guoyang was already full of chauvinism. Seeing his own mother-in-law beating him, wouldn't he turn the tables if he didn't teach him a lesson? So he called over without any hesitation. The war is becoming increasingly fierce, and neighbors are all coming out to fight. Wang Xiaoxiao had just finished his meal when he heard the bustle outside and couldn't help but go out to watch the battle. The two families were already close, and coupled with Feng Hongxia and Li Guoyang fighting in the yard, the door was still open, so Wang Xiaoxiao could see the situation from the door. Chu Xingchen naturally wouldn't be so bored, going to see someone else's husband and wife fighting. With his relationship with Li Guoyang, it was even more impossible to argue, so he consciously put away the utensils and took them to the kitchen for washing. Wang Xiaoxiao looked at it for a while before feeling bored. He turned around and returned to the room, only to see Chu Xingchen washing dishes in the kitchen. She hesitated for a moment and didn't go over. She cooked while he washed dishes, it was very fair. Smelling the smell of oil fumes all over her body, she suddenly felt uncomfortable and wanted to take a shower. With Chu Xingchen present, she didn't dare to go to the space to wash, so she could only honestly take the changed clothes and enter the restroom. Close the door, find the original owner's bathtub, scrub inside and out several times before putting in the shower water. Although the weather was very hot, she still didn't dare to take a cold shower. She mixed some hot water from the hot water bottle and tried it. When the temperature was around, she took off her clothes and stepped into the bathtub. After taking a comfortable bath, I washed my hair again, which took a lot of time to avoid the injury on my forehead. Coming out of the restroom, it was already dark. I didn't see Chu Xingchen, so I thought he had already left, so I didn't take it to heart. While wiping his hair with a towel and groping towards the bedroom, he passed by Chu Xingchen's room and saw dim lights shining through. Curiously, he stopped and through the crack in the door, saw him sitting at the table holding a book, carefully watching. Under the illumination of the light, the man's wheat-colored skin seemed to be shining, and his sharp and angular face also showed coldness. Although he was still handsome enough to make people unable to move their eyes away, there was also an aura of being far-sighted but not obscene to play with. Probably sensing her gaze, the man looked up. Wang Xiaoxiao awkwardly withdrew his gaze, unsure whether to leave or push the door in. Just as she was pondering, Chu Xingchen opened the door and stood at it, asking, "Is there anything wrong?" Wang Xiaoxiao shook his head and said, "No, didn't you say you had training? I thought you had already left and saw the lights on in the room. I thought you might have forgotten to turn them off when you left and came over to turn them off." Chu Xingchen. How does he feel that Wang Xiaoxiao wants him to leave immediately? With a furrowed brow and a firm expression, he said, "I'm leaving now," and then strode away. Wang Xiaoxiao stared at his back, and for some reason, she felt that he was sulking. Forget it, maybe I misread it and didn't think much. I turned around and went back to the bedroom. Close the door, dodge into the space, blow dry your hair with a hair dryer, bring melon seeds, and watch videos while munching on them. She saved a lot of movies on her computer in the apartment, but unfortunately, she used to work hard for life and didn't have any free time to watch them. Now she happens to watch them again. Seeing drowsiness, Wang Xiaoxiao finally found space to lie down in bed and rest. Of course, before going to bed, she didn't forget to take out the money, clothes, and snacks that were stuffed into the space at noon. That night, Wang Xiaoxiao had a beautiful dream. In her dream, she became a wealthy woman with plenty of money to spend, surrounded by handsome guys. Compared to Wang Xiaoxiao, who had beautiful dreams, Chu Xingchen was much more pitiful. He lost sleep and lay on a bumpy marching bed, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. He didn't originally plan to go back to the office, but he didn't expect that woman would drive him away. If Wang Xiaoxiao knew his thoughts, he would only shout out for justice. You're overthinking it. Chapter 10. Are you loving me? You are listening at novelfull.audio. I have to admit one thing, that woman seems to have really changed, along with her feelings for him of course, this is not the point. The point is that he seems to be starting to care about that woman, and his mind occasionally comes up with the idea of staying at home for a while longer and spending more time with her. He got up irritably, opened the window, and blew for a while before calming down. The next morning, Chu Xingchen met Li Guoyang, who came to the army with a wounded face. Li Guoyang saw him and immediately raised a false smile on his face. Hello, Captain Chu. Chu Xingchen nodded at him, then turned around and left. Li Guoyang looked at Chu Xingchen's back with a hint of malice in his eyes. If it weren't for the couple, he wouldn't have ended up like this. He will definitely avenge this grudge. Wang Xiaoxiao woke up with a smile in the morning. The first thing she did when she opened her eyes was to flash into the space, and then eagerly ran to the place where she left the small vault yesterday to search. Of course, the result was disappointment. There was not even a trace of money there, so I ran to look at the place where clothes and snacks were stored and saw nothing. As expected, the regenerative ability of space only applies to the original things in the space, and the things that are put in later will not regenerate. Alas, it seems that in order to achieve the dream of a wealthy woman, one can also create it through one's own brain and hands. Out of space, sitting on the bed, Wang Xiaoxiao seriously pondered over life. She cannot always be an unemployed wanderer, let alone rely on others to support her. With the strength of her original employer, it's not difficult to get her a job, but she doesn't like it. She is an expert in military engineering, and her biggest dream is to develop powerful weapons for the Chinese military, enhance China's national strength, and make her motherland no longer afraid of any country. Although time and space have changed, her ideals have not changed. According to the original owner's memory, there were also research institutes in the military during this era. If possible, she really wanted to work at the research institute. But the original owner didn't know these things. If she suddenly said yes, it would definitely make people doubt, and if not, she might be caught as a spy. Okay, what she needs most now is an opportunity to showcase all of this in a reasonable way. Just before the opportunity arises, she should make some preparations. Goo 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 goo. Wang Xiaoxiao's stomach protested severely, and only then did he feel hungry. Wait for the time slowly, fill your stomach first. When I left the space and saw the lunch box on the table, I knew that Chu Xingchen had already brought breakfast, so it was better not to cook it by himself. After finishing breakfast, Wang Xiaoxiao felt a bit bored and could only continue reading. The ancient said that there was a golden house in a book, and she had to pick up more gold in case of unexpected needs. At around 10 o'clock, she put down the book in her hand and went to cook. Recalling the steps taken by Lu Xiaohong to start the fire yesterday, slowly Wang Xiaoxiao also started the fire. Watching the blazing fire on the stove, a sense of pride arose. Isn't it just about starting a fire? It's not difficult either. The fire is good, and the rest is a piece of cake for her. Scooped a small bowl of rice from the rice jar and boiled it in a small pot next to it. Because it was my first time cooking rice in this pot, I didn't dare to make too much, fearing that I might waste it if I didn't do it well. I thought I might not be able to cook enough for a while and secretly used an electric rice cooker to steam some. Alas, she is probably the most cautious traveler in history. Prepare the meal, leave a small portion for oneself, and put the rest into the lunchbox. Smelling the smell of oil fumes on my body, I quickly took a shower in the space and changed into a clean dress before leaving. Just walked to the door, thought for a moment, then turned back and stuffed the remaining half of the meal into the lunchbox, while also taking a pair of bowls and chopsticks. Stepping out of the family courtyard, I met several military sister.In-law sitting at the bottom of a tree, chatting at home. Several people looked at her with a noticeably kinder gaze. Wang Xiaoxiao smiled at them and greeted them, "Hello sister.In-law." A few people were momentarily taken aback, and then they all responded to her. "Comrade Wang, have you eaten yet?" "Comrade Wang, what are you doing here?" Wang Xiaoxiao smiled and replied one by one, "I haven't eaten yet. I'll go and deliver food to my man." She muttered to herself, "My man," became more and more fluent as she spoke. After listening to her words, several people couldn't help but joke around. "Hey, Comrade Wang really cares about your family. Isn't that right? Captain Chu is blessed. My sister.In-law can just call me Xiaoxiao. I'll go deliver the meal first, and I'll talk to you later." After saying that, I blushed and ran away pretending to be shy. After she left, several sister.In-law began to murmur and discuss. "I feel like Xiaoxiao has really changed. He even took the initiative to greet us just now. Isn't that right? I haven't heard her making a fuss these past few days either. Ah, this child is also pitiful. He has a simple mind and is easily exploited by others." These words reminded several people of Feng Hongxia and made them even more convinced that Wang Xiaoxiao was being exploited. At the same time, they secretly made up their minds to stay away from Feng Hongxia. Wang Xiaoxiao arrived at Chu Xingchen's office carrying a lunchbox, only to find that the door was locked, and he didn't know what he had done. Helplessly, I had to wait at the door. Fortunately, not long after, I saw several people wearing military uniforms walking in from outside. Wang Xiaoxiao saw Chu Xingchen walking among them at a glance. After all, such a handsome face is very eye-catching in the crowd. Glancing over the other people around him, I noticed that they were similar to the others from yesterday, and it seemed that they were all going to Chu Xingchen's subordinates or friends. I didn't bother them and waited quietly for Chu Xingchen to come over. The group on the opposite side took a few steps and also saw her standing at the door. Compared to yesterday, their hostility was much less. When they saw the lunchbox in her hand, some of them, perhaps guessing her purpose, smiled at her in a rare way. Wang Xiaoxiao politely smiled back and thought to himself, "Is this a good change?" Chu Xingchen gave a few words of advice to the people behind him, and then let them each disperse. He walked towards Wang Xiaoxiao with a cheerful expression and seemed to be in a good mood. Walking in front of her, he didn't ask why she came, but naturally took the lunch box from her hand and said, "Thank you." Watching her cheeks turn red from the sun, a warm current swept through her heart, and the corners of her mouth curled. After thinking for a moment, she said, "Don't bring me food in the future." Wang Xiaoxiao was in a good mood after listening to the first two words, but the following words stunned her. She looked up at him and said, "Why?" Her hot temper has come up. It seems that she hasn't provoked him these past few days, and she has been serving him well. If he doesn't give her a reason to accept it, she will immediately bring back the food she made today. Upon seeing her expression, Chu Xingchen knew she had misunderstood and explained, "The weather is too hot, and the noon sun is poisonous." His voice couldn't help but soften a lot, and Wang Xiaoxiao's temper suddenly subsided halfway. After listening to what he said, the remaining half also disappeared without a trace. Are you feeling sorry for me? She was in a good mood at this moment, looking at the man with a smile in her eyes, and the pear vortex at the corner of her mouth was also faintly visible, showing a different charm. It seemed that he didn't expect her to ask such a question, and Chu Xingchen's heart suddenly tightened. He lowered his eyes and looked at the woman in front of him who was smiling sincerely and openly, and instinctively nodded. Wang Xiaoxiao's smile grew even stronger. She mischievously blinked and sighed, "It's really rare." Chu Xingchen remained silent. He was choked by these words and didn't know what to say for a moment. Fortunately, Wang Xiaoxiao did not continue the topic. She pointed to the locked door and said, "Open the door quickly, I'm almost overheating." Chu Xingchen took out the key from his pocket and opened the door. Wang Xiaoxiao walked in and sat comfortably on the spacious office chair. Chu Xingchen placed the lunch box on the table, turned around, picked up an enamel basin from the wash basin stand behind the door, and took half a basin of water from the faucet outside to wash his hands. Wang Xiaoxiao propped up his chin and looked at Chu Xingchen, who was washing his hands not far away. He wrapped his army green shirt sleeve around his forearm, revealing a solid and powerful arm. The lines were smooth and beautiful, and his slender and bony fingers swayed back and forth in the water. The veins on the back of his hand were slightly raised, giving him a strong sense of strength. Sure enough, he is a child favored by God, meticulously crafted in every aspect. Wang Xiaoxiao withdrew his gaze, thinking that such a top-quality human being is only suitable for distant observation. Turning his head to look at the marching folding mat bed next to the basin stand, he couldn't help but guess that it was where he slept at night. It was really hard for him. With such a tall body placed on a small bed that didn't fit his body shape, he felt uncomfortable even thinking about it. Alas, they are all sins created by the original owner. Chu Xingchen washed his hands clean, wiped his face again, and then wrung out the towel and hung it on the shelf.